So we're going to do a little bit. We're going to do 2 segments. I'm going to go through light architecture, at least explain to you the solution, what we're doing, why we did what we did, not selling, but answer your questions there. And then I got about half an hour of actually live demo. This product releases on February 15th, so I'm using a release candidate. Fingers crossed, everything works. But we've been running this actually same environment out on the floor for days, so should be pretty good. So set up some context of where this fits in. So you know about October, I think, 2016, so a year and a half ago, we announced, October 2017, announced our multi-cloud portfolio. So I run a cloud group, the product management under Kip Compton in our CPSG group, so Cloud Platform Solution Group. We don't own all the things. Cisco does lots of things in cloud, but we've at least kind of packaged up into something that's explainable. So just to give you the context where what I'm going to talk about. The rest of time fits in, advisory, connect, protect, consume, pretty self-explanatory. Break into it, what are the products? Just these are our products that we actually sell customers. When you want to do multi-cloud connecting, that's our heritage. We have lots of products that do that. We have a lot of security products that protect, and the consume side is really what I'm going to talk about. So the CloudCenter product is evolving into the CloudCenter Suite, and so this is where it fits in the portfolio of our multi-cloud strategy. So hopefully that helps you place this a bit. So we had CloudCenter 4X. I actually came into Cisco through the Clicker acquisition almost 3 years ago. So Clicker CloudCenter became Cisco CloudCenter, cloud management product. And a couple things about the 4X product. It was a single pricing model. So you bought into the whole story of application lifecycle management, multi-cloud, et cetera. And you got all the functionality. Customers during that journey found, some people start early. What is cloud? How many clouds I'm going to use? Maybe I'm one app just on VMware on-premise. We still see a lot of customers today that are all private for whatever reason. Maybe they don't feel comfortable or they're just not there yet. Their applications, everyone has their reasons. We're not going to debate if public cloud's here or not, but some people just aren't using certain places. So we do see that all or nothing functionality. People said, well, I need something that's maybe my entry point, smaller. And we had that single consumption model. So in coming together with a suite, it is actually a suite. I'm going to get into why that is. We actually have 3 editions, and you'll see these names actually become pretty common in Cisco. Essentials, Advantage, Premier. That's the order of features. Premier being the top, Essentials being the entry. I think DNA Center sells with these edition names. ACI, there's probably others. Those are the 2 that pop into my head. New functionality. So we acquired a company, Compute.io, about a little over a year ago. And that integration has come into this suite, and we'll explain how that comes in. And Action Orchestrator. Anyone familiar with Cisco Process Orchestrator? For years, we've had something called Prime Service Catalog and Cisco Process Orchestrator. They're used together. Okay. So it's a business process orchestrator. We've actually updated that product and modernized it. It's the same development team. So Action Orchestrator is the evolution of that Cisco Process Orchestrator. Choice of consumption models. At Clicker, we had a SaaS. Coming into Cisco, we didn't have a place to land a SaaS environment. Our customers, Clicker actually going way back 8 years ago, started off as SaaS only. And a lot of our early customers, service providers, big enterprises, felt more comfortable self-hosting. So we ended up offering both at Clicker. So we're actually bringing back SaaS, not as the only option, but as a choice for customers. So they can still choose now to self-host or run a SaaS environment that Cisco's running. So let's talk about why is it a suite. So the CloudCenter product that was Clicker is now a module called Workload Manager. Okay, so the name is the suite name. The actual CMP functionality is now Workload Manager. So let me talk a little bit about when you take something and truly make a suite, what do you need? One, we also wanted a better install experience for customers. So we simplified the installer. How are we doing that? So I was here last year talking about our Google partnership, our Cisco Container Platform launch. We've learned a little something about Kubernetes over the past couple of years. So we ship an actual Cisco Container Platform product. Therefore, we're laying down this environment, containerized microservices on a Kubernetes environment. Okay, so during the installation, customer does not need to know anything about Kubernetes. We still have a lot of people who don't know Kubernetes. Your average IT guy maybe heard of it, isn't actually using it. They're not doing container development. We're laying down that environment for them. Or during the install process, we can choose to a Kubernetes compliant environment, version and such that you want to deploy to. Or we also can deploy to public cloud. I think Google and Amazon are the 2 today. So GKE or EKS. So we're truly deploying a containerized application onto managed public cloud container offerings. Okay, so that's still self-hosted. The customer's deploying it, they're running it. That's not our SaaS. So what is in a suite? You also have a lot of common things. The cloud accounts, the users, the groups, the role-based access control, the monitoring, the logging, single sign-on integration with IDPs. All that stuff is common. So there's a suite admin, which is, let's just call it a common framework. This is also kind of a separation of duties. The person who runs the platform and administers users and access and upgrades to the modules and such has an area that they use, and that's the suite admin. And then you have the modules that stack on top of it. We have intention to bring out more modules probably as well. So the suite will actually expand in functionality. Not anything I'm going to be able to talk about today, but we have modules in mind. So Cost Optimizer, I mentioned we acquired Compute.io. The Cost Optimizer is cloud cost reporting. We did cost management in the CloudCenter product, but there's a lot of things that happen with costs in clouds. The back-end stuff, network ins and outs. Most enterprises are spending about 10% in their public cloud bills of just network ins and outs. There are certain things like Lambda and serverless that bill differently. Route 53, maybe you only get charged once you hit like 1 million queries. So there's a lot of services that you actually get billed differently than consumption-based, like an EC2 instance or a Google Cloud Compute instance would actually bill you per hour or per minute. So the cost management over here is for what's under management and actually correlates into the module. So this module is full cost reporting, billing account subgroups, has nothing to do with what's under management here. It's everything that is discoverable in the actual bill, and you can slice it and dice it and report it, and we'll actually show that. Action Orchestrator is the business process and technical orchestration. Okay. So I mentioned packaging. So just want to relate this to you just so you kind of understand how it works. So it's a feature-based matrix. Internally, this actually ships in 2 weeks. So internally, there's a lot more detail on what's technically in each one. This is a pretty high-level one. So if you have specific questions, happy to answer them. But like cost reporting, in the essentials, these are entry use cases. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do in the cloud. It's early. I know that people have been going out and swiping their credit cards, with their corporate procurement cards. I'd like to see what they're actually doing. Load all the accounts in, read-only reporting. The next level up, the cost reporting is going to give you recommendations and remediation. What product's actually doing the remediation? When you push the, I want to do that recommendation, it's Workload Manager that actually does the work, or Action Orchestrator taking some action. Okay? But the recommendations is called that kind of the read-write. So this is the read-only cost and billing visibility, and this is kind of the read-write recommendation capability. The adapters are really what is licensed different in Action Orchestrator. You have workflows you execute. They can be called within the suite, or they can be called externally via APIs. For example, here, all the devices, you may have seen some of the digital bridge signage that shows you network performance. That's actually Action Orchestrator the ops team here is using, that's pulling all the statistics from devices, aggregating it, and sending it off to the function that then puts it on those digital signage. So that's an example of how a workflow is being used here to do a recurring task over and over and over. So the essentials adapters would almost be the build-it-yourself kind of stuff. RESTful APIs, SSH, stuff like that. So you can build your own connections. This middle tier, really, let's describe that as Cisco on Cisco. All of our adapters, ACI integration, DNA Center, APIC-EM, Meraki, we're shipping the out-of-box adapters for all the Cisco portfolio kind of stuff in the Essentials Advantage adapters. And then also third-party import. There's an SDK. Customers and partners can write their own adapters for whatever. You don't have to wait on us. If you want to do some integration with a product only you use, or some custom app your organization has, or that's out there in the ecosystem that's not quite popular yet, but you love it, you can write your own adapter. And so the importability comes in the next two editions. Okay, the workload concept of CloudCenter is basic VM and container management. And a lot of customers say, it's meaningful to me. If I could deploy a VM fast over and over and over, I'm early in this journey, that's a win for me. So that's their low-hanging fruit. Start with a lower entry point.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
I kind of missed the beginning, and I apologize for that. But
okay.
How does CloudCenter fit in the landscape of your product compared to UCS Director? Is it superseding it? Is it a parallel product? I don't know if UCS Director was retired or not.
No, good question. Not retired. So think of what we do with cloud as we talk down to the API layer. So we don't really know, do I need more hypervisors? Are they running at capacity? Is my storage controller? I need to bring up new blades. I need to quickly boot up a brand new blade to get a hypervisor on it. So there's someone below the API layer whose job is to run the public cloud well. In the public cloud, you don't do that. You buy it. You buy an instance t-shirt size for a price with an SLA with some transparency. In the private cloud, you need to run that. The customer has taken on that responsibility of, I want to run a private cloud well. So tools like UCS Director are primarily used to run the private cloud well. UCSD does have some basic VM management. UCSD is also evolving into Intersight as well. So there's an evolution occurring, but that's absolutely important. CloudCenter as a cloud management does not boot up a blade and put a hypervisor on it.
But you're seeing both products eventually coexisting together at certain customers. For example, people which have private and kind of hybrid cloud approach, They may want to use UCSD or Intersight to continue managing their infrastructure, and they may want to use CloudCenter, is it right?
Yeah,
CloudCenter
correct.
to
CloudCenter Suite.
manage
Yep.
workloads.
Exactly. Well, think of user personas as well. My guys who run the infrastructure and fire up racks and bring in new gear, their pane of glass is an operations perspective, whereas this is more API interfaces or a catalog of deployable self-service things, adding a technical delivery with like a non-technical governance, the guardrails. It's a very different user experience. So we're not trying to say there's a single pane of glass for both consuming cloud and building your own. They're different toolings. So they're very complementary.
And this is multi-cloud, right? So you're kind of building an abstraction layer across cloud providers.
Correct. The CloudCenter product this was 5.0 in this. So 4.x, the whole thing was model once, deploy anywhere. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but you're getting into a personality. We call them cloud personalities now. I have a profile, the application's topology. It has the intent of what I want deployed. When you actually say you would like the standard enterprise Windows application stack with whatever middleware and database that's been defined by the org, you ask for it, you ask for a small, you ask for it in this public cloud. The governance says dev can't go public, maybe dev can only go private, and only offers you private. Then, because of the private cloud, let's just say it was OpenStack. We then take the intent of the profile and deliver it with as much capability as is possible on the cloud. You know, a couple of years ago, there was a big difference between clouds. Some clouds didn't even have a concept of microsegmentation. Their cloud networking was fairly immature, whereas another cloud was very mature, supported microsegmentation. I mean, that's starting to normalize as the clouds mature, but there's still differences. You don't have to worry about the API differences. And what does it mean to instantiate an AMI image versus a QCOW versus a VMDK versus a VHD? That's all part of the back-end setup. The customer just says, I want this outcome, and we deliver it with as much capability as possible. And that could be, for example, VMware ACI integrated. We're actually programming the ACI fabric with that topology. And so that's that model once, deploy, and manage anywhere kind of tagline. That's what we mean by that, is you're not modeling different outcomes with hardwired specifics to each different cloud. We're taking care of, let's call it the bottom 20%. What's different in the clouds, we're taking care of. You don't need to worry about it. And that's, you know, there is a lot of scripting you can do with different clouds, and you end up scripting that bottom 20%. We have one customer who said normally our delivery used to be about 1,200 lines of code. When we chose a different region or a different cloud, we usually had to change about 20% of that. And if it was a different cloud technology, by the way, you might have to go learn the APIs as well, so it takes some time. So they're a big CloudCenter customer, big media company, been using it for years. That was the benefit to them with that model once approach, was they stop rewriting all the technical outcomes every time they change the target environment. And that becomes kind of brittle too. You upgrade one component with UCS Director, and now it's very brittle and fragile because maybe some bad assumptions were made, very hardwired in those 1,200 lines of code. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
I have just a quick question
please.
on the cost reporting, yeah? Is this just giving me a feedback, or can I also assign this developer has, I don't know, this budget, if he runs over it, that some action is taking?
Yeah, so the budget and the front-end control is actually in Workload Manager, the CloudCenter product. So if I said you can only spend $5,000 a month, we'd enforce that at the self-service request time and also report on that. There's not really budget. There are billing groups and department codes and other things on this side, but really you want to control costs like that on the front end. For example, should a developer who's just doing some quick testing ever ask for the $25 an hour instance in Amazon that's huge? Probably not. So on this side, we actually eliminate those instances from the dev environments where the developer wouldn't even seem to choose from. Therefore, he wouldn't end up burning $5,000 in just a couple hours. That's more of a governance function. Okay. So the combination of visibility of cost and then actually governing cost and controlling it actually kind of go hand in hand. So you're kind of describing that protected at the front door when the guy asks for it, but they work together.
And the other thing, if something goes right, so somebody I'm making something up. He developed something, was consuming more and more resources.
Yeah.
Can you act on these as well?
We can. So you're getting into like recommendations, for example. You might see the billing view that shows this instance is just bigger and bigger and bigger. I'll actually show you this in the product. We actually make recommendations. So we may actually upsize or downsize the instance, or we may show you its ideal size. For example, I have about 8 VMs in one of my accounts that I'm going to show you that's actually not ideal sized, and we're making a recommendation. So you push the button, and Workload Manager would actually do the work.
Where I would like to go to, you start in the evening, everybody goes home, yeah? This instance going wild, maybe on the next day you have a very expensive bill, so you act on that automated based?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, It's interesting, you're describing something, we actually have a product as well called Cisco Workload Optimization Manager, optimization. There are policy engines in that are more business intelligence and make decisions about, hey, this is wrong. That product also does like strategic what ifs and some other things. That would then actually, but that product doesn't actually do the work. It needs to call someone to actually do the work. When you start talking big machine learning and declarative kind of stuff, you do get into a little bit more of that strategic what if. How do I pick up my whole data center and move it to the public cloud? That's a what if, or you're kind of describing how do I repack the truck to get everything to fit better? Because you only have $5,000, for example. I need to fix things to actually stay within $5,000. That's a combination of the CloudCenter Suite and the Cisco Workload Optimization Manager product, which is actually, Workload Optimization Manager also tends to look at the infrastructure as well. Like on the private cloud, look at the storage controllers and say how much headroom do they have? Because remember, in cloud, we have infinite capacity as our promise. When you have a private cloud, it's perceived infinite capacity, but it's not really. So CWAM actually is a product we use as well. Like if you asked for the deployment and you ask for 50 vCPUs and 25 gig of RAM, that's what it took to make that stack, we can actually call CWAM and say, does that target actually have capacity to deliver that request? And we'd get back a yes, no. If the answer was no, we wouldn't even try to deploy it. We'd come back to you and say, yeah, you can't use that cloud. It can't fulfill this. Pick another cloud from the list. So that's an example of the suite actually calling CWAM, because remember, that's below the API layer that you see things like storage controller utilization. And that product will also later replace things. Like when we send stuff to a hypervisor, we don't actually send it to a specific hypervisor. We send it to a cloud API and say, give me 5 VMs. If they all landed on one hypervisor and started getting heavy, CWAM would also say, hey, you really need to call DRS and move these around and distribute the load a little more evenly. These are concepts we don't even think about in like public clouds, but on the private cloud, CWAM can do that kind of stuff for you as well. So it's a nuance, but hopefully that's at least a good use case explanation of how they're very different in what they do.
Makes sense.
Yep. So I talked about, this was really the Cisco on Cisco use case. Premier is really, our current customers are all going to actually get an entitlement to Premier, because basically they are using ServiceNow. So ServiceNow, our ServiceNow integration that you can download from the store, customers get for the Premier version with no additional cost. Our Jenkins plugin to do CI/CD integration. One thing that's kind of new, the gray here, anyone familiar with NSO, the TLF acquisition from a couple years ago? You can make CloudCenter today deploy a CSR router or a virtual firewall. But the truth is, there's like 800 lines of common code, and dynamic interface attaching can get tricky. Things like day 2 ongoing lifecycle management. I want to go change the secret password on 1,000 devices. That's what NSO does. The netconf yang model is actually the way to deal with the global config standards plus the dynamic interface attaching. So we're actually including on these 2 editions an NSO Essentials for free. So CloudCenter can actually quickly deploy NSO, and it's limited to these 2 use cases, deploying CSR virtual routers and ASA virtual firewalls up to 25 nodes. So starting to show enterprises, we do a lot with service providers and virtual network functions. A lot of those as service providers use NSO. But this gives us kind of, really CloudCenter shouldn't be owning the day 2 management of virtual routers and firewalls. The NSO product is the right product. So this is orchestrating someone who's actually the domain orchestrator of that specific use case. So that's new. Customers will see a $0 line item when they buy it that'll get them NSO to just specifically do that. And I'll show you in a minute why that's important. So we used to sell managers, orchestrators, and the actual peak concurrent virtual machine management. We now sell pick your edition. And with it, you get one cloud personality. So if you're only using 100 VMs, and that's cool for you, and you're just using VMware, basically you just pick Essentials, and for that $50K list price, you'd be able to manage 100 virtual machines. Because the management units, I'll explain in a minute, you get about basically 100 VMs worth of management units. So if you then later say, hey, I want to start using Amazon or Google or Alibaba or Azure, you then can add a couple items. Add cloud personality. So as you grow, you can step up in functions, and as you add clouds, you just add a personality. We used to charge every individual orchestrator. Well, a couple years ago, like Azure China APIs were different than Azure. There was variations. It was work for us to support. Now it's pretty much normalized. Amazon, Azure, it's one API set. They're just regions. So it's just the cloud personality. I'm starting to use Azure. There's a nominal cost per year to just add the cloud personality. And that's the model once deliver anywhere capability is the RIP of how we do that is in this cloud personality. And finally, management units. This is kind of the knob of consumption, really. Action Orchestrator and cost reporting don't currently decrement from the management unit pool. Okay? This is virtual machines and containers and their runtime. So basically, we're measuring it in minutes. One management unit equals an hour for Workload Manager, measured in minutes. So let me give you an example. You're running a virtual machine, 24/7, all month. That's about 720 management units, because that's about 720 hours a month. 60 containers running for 1 minute each. That's one management unit. Okay? And this is tiered as customers move up in consumption. You know, if someone buys 1 million units or 2 million units or 3 million units, then they're gradually adding more management units to the pool and consuming them. So let me explain, might sound a little confusing, but let me tell you the benefit. When we measured peak concurrent VMs under management, if you had 1,000 VMs that we had deployed and they were running in any state, it counted to your peak. So let me give you a use case. Dev team, they only work from 8 to 5. Why pay for usage from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. through the night when your dev team's sleeping? Well, in our old version, we still counted if you suspended those. So we added a capability to schedule it. Hey, when the devs go home, suspend the workload. Before they come in, spin it back up so that when they log in, it's already back up and running. They don't know it was actually suspended all night. Why waste 2/3 of the money on a public cloud provider or the capacity on your own environment that may be running billing analytics or other nightly batch jobs? Free up the capacity. So in a peak concurrent model, those VMs were counting because they were still managed. In a management unit concept, that 2/3 downtime, it doesn't count. We're not accumulating management units. We're only accumulating when we're providing value. Okay? Make sense?
Makes sense, but why is the dev team going home so early?
They need to sleep. They need to eat. You know, they might know how to party, unlike CCIEs. So maybe the devs. Well, if you have rolling, but anyway, it's a good example of don't pay for what you're not using. So just quickly, Workload Manager, I think we've talked about quite a bit. You know, blueprint it once, put it in a catalog where people self-serve, deploy anywhere. And we oftentimes call them application profiles. It actually can be a VM, a container, a virtual firewall, a load balancer. It can be anything. It can actually be an external service, like it could be a drag and drop object that's really like Amazon RDS or any kind of cloud service. So there's more of that. And we're controlling it, the non-technical guardrails. You shouldn't be able to deploy to Amazon spending $25,000 a month picking the most expensive instance. You're a troublemaker. He's trustworthy. He'll always pick the small T2 micro and data classifications are right. Someone asked about clouds. So we've supported 16 clouds in the prior version. It's dropped to 15. Where's 15? Azure Pack. Azure Pack is obviously being replaced with Azure Stack. So in CloudCenter Suite 5.0, we only support Azure Stack. Our cost reporting, when we bought Compute.io, they only supported Amazon. So the cost reporting currently is only for 3 public clouds and 1 private cloud. So Amazon, Azure, Google, and VMware. So eventually, over the next couple releases, the cost optimizer will support all these clouds as well. But this is the Workload Manager supported all of these, and the cost optimizer will catch up and also support all of these. Pretty much all of these have billing APIs now. Okay. We'll actually get into this and show the size. I think we've talked about it quite a bit. But giving you the visibility of all your cloud spend, regardless of whether we're managing the deployment, you'll see what's in your accounts. And then we'll actually show kind of a workflow manager, action orchestrator, and what the workflows look like and how they can be used. We'll skip all this. This is marketing stuff. We do see different users. We talked about this a bit. The user experience and how they get used. So there's role-based access control is important. We've evolved the roles and how you map roles. Like the suite admin might be the IT ops folks or the IT admin that deploy the platform and set up the SSO integration. And the end users, might be the developers and the end users that are actually requesting services. The cloud architect may set up the rules. Dev should only go here. Data classification, secret shouldn't go out to the public cloud. But other things. So really the one policy and one governance framework that actually lets you meet all the kind of requirements of these folks. This is how our customers use the CloudCenter 4X product today. And obviously we're evolving that and providing additional functionality with the same kind of promised outcome. So we'll end here for slideware. So February 15th is when the self-hosted GAs. We are launching the SaaS in March. That is North America. Basically to say non-GDPR. So our worldwide launch goes everywhere in the summer, and that's when the SaaS offering will be fully GDPR compliant. So basically starting with all the...
That means also hosted in EMEA data center?
It actually does mean we're distributing it. So people ask, where are we running this? Cisco doesn't have a public cloud, so we're distributing this around public clouds. This is also mostly North American regions. So this also spreads out the federation of the product to actually run. So yeah, we'll actually be running the SaaS in regions all around the world, GDPR compliant, et cetera. So yep, absolutely. Kind of last one, just where it fits in the suite, our stack visually. You know, if you look at AppDynamics, is looking at like the developers, the end user experience, performance management. We're very complementary. I think even if you go to the booth on the floor, we actually have AppD and CloudCenter Suite side by side showing what it looks like to know if an application is running well, and then calling a product to actually remediate it or move it to another cloud or what have you. You know, this cloud's private stack you were talking about. Intersight, I don't have UCS director here, but Intersight is the growing product. You'd manage this environment well with tools that the IT operations folks would use, and we have various products, Azure Stack and Container Platform and ACI. You heard about ACI Anywhere announcements yesterday, so obviously how you connect to clouds. And we have security products like Tetration and StealthWatch. CloudCenter oftentimes deploys the agents for AppDynamics, StealthWatch, and Tetration to get them out in the environment, and every time an app's deployed, the right kind of tooling is set up on the environment. Okay. That's a good breaking point. Actually, let me talk about these real quick. This is what I talked about last time, but just to kind of put it in context, so the CMP function is in our current shipping solution. So this is the Google offering, Cisco hybrid cloud platform for Google Cloud. So this is our Cisco container platform on-premise, consistent environment, working with it. So having a CMP that can do things like deploy the CSR routers that go between the two connections. So I mentioned this is why we're giving away NSO now, because it's better for us to actually automate that. Plumbing up to new cloud regions, have NSO via CloudCenter do that. Deploying the agents, you know, Google Apogee, we're reselling. Cisco Container Platform is releasing every month. I think we have 3.0 coming out next week rather, which adds Kubernetes 1.12 support. So every time we do a major revision of that. So CloudCenter can deploy containers as well. So the application can actually be a mix. It could be VMs and containers in one profile. And then you can choose, do I want that to go to GKE and Google Cloud, or do I want it to go to Cisco Container Platform in like a VMware-based HyperFlex environment? So that's that solution. reInvent, we launched the solution with Amazon as well. Pretty much the same thing, but functionally we're also doing some integration, like integrating the Amazon IAM role into the on-premise containers, but still the CMP fits in here as the help to deploy the applications and workloads and manage them. So just kind of show you how this fits into our solutions. So pretty soon these slides will get changed to CloudCenter Suite. We'll update the validated designs, refresh the offerings, and that'll say CloudCenter Suite in a couple weeks. Okay? Who wants live demos? Real product? Get rid of the slideware here. I'm sure my session has timed out. So this is release candidate. So I've got a tenant here that's actually being used on the show floor. So multi-tenant, multi-cloud account has always been in the product, so that's still the same. So right here, you've got the modules available. So when you install this, a customer may buy the suite, and maybe early on, maybe they're just interested in Action Orchestrator. Our existing CPO customer doing business workflows may get access to the suite, and all they install is Action Orchestrator. We want them to try the other things, because obviously we're cross-using functionality between the module, but it's the suite, but you can use the module for specific use cases. So I'm going to start with Suite Admin. Just pop open another window here real quick. So in Suite Admin, this is, for example, you do the installation, and it's a distributed environment. There's lots of modules. We need to make it easy. So like right here, you can see I'm running Suite Admin where I'm running RC 1.2, and in our release GitHub repos that are private, I actually see there's an update to RC 2.1. So we're running a little older. The devs are getting close to releasing. So every single one of these modules actually has updates to it. So an admin would just click update. I'm not going to do that here because I'll break what's probably in the show floor.
Can I ask you a question
on
the updates? So how, again, sorry if I was not paying attention, but is this a kind of software as a service offering, or do I need to deploy that on premises?
Well, it's both. So here I'm self-hosted. So I own this deployment. So it's mine. I can choose when to do the updates, but it's on me. Okay. This is self-hosted. In SaaS, we'll be doing it for you.
Okay, but don't you think that it might be a problem? Because if you allow the customer to kind of decide when they want to update, they may run into some issues compared to running the SaaS version, and it might just be because they didn't care about updating for a year or so?
Could be. So we do have smart licensing in the product. We know what versions customers are using based on the licenses. There's just a little bit of telemetry that goes back to Cisco that tells us this customer has this entitlement. They're actually running this version. So there's an end of sale process, and we do have to tell customers, hey, you're using a version no longer supported. You know, sometimes how we find out, they call TAC with a problem, and TAC says, well, this is a known issue, or that's a new feature you're looking for. It's not in that version. You need to upgrade. The point is really here, it's a single update. In the SaaS, we would actually update for people, so proper change management, send out an email a week in advance, hey, next Friday night at 3 a.m., we're going to be upgrading the entire suite to our 5.1 release with these modules. But in self-hosted, you could choose. Because a lot of customers are a little more concerned about the change management, the testing. They have a non-prod instance, perhaps. They actually do all their integration testing in a non-prod, so they could do updates in non-prod and then come to the prod instance. So self-hosted just gives the customer the control of their timing with their test parameters. But yeah, they do need to stay within a sliding support matrix that's always moving on. That's no different than any other self-hosted, though. But the point here is they don't have to go download it from Cisco.com. They don't have to figure out how to stage it, how to put it in a repo. We're already publishing this. They just click the update button. So I did put, this isn't really a module, but to kind of show how this works, I kind of hacked in an actual application, a Kubernetes pod, because these are basically just Kubernetes application deployments. So I hacked in kind of a little pet clinic just so you could kind of see what it looked like without breaking what we got on the show floor. And I actually see like target versions of what I want to deploy to, and I can click install, and that fake module is going to install onto the Kubernetes environment and show up in Suite Admin. That one wouldn't actually work, but illustration of what it would look like if you didn't already have all these modules installed. Okay. So I mentioned a lot of common things. This is where you create the users for all modules. So we've got a lot of my team and people out on the floor. They're all logging in, and they actually see what they can access. We have groups. The role-based access control bubbles up into the modules because, what roles do you want to actually create and assign? That's at the module level, but consuming groups and the underlying single sign-on is all common. So here's where we actually map in the groups, map the users to groups. Tenancy, I want to create tenants, subtenants, subtenants of subtenants. All that's done in Suite Admin. So a service provider, we have service providers that actually use this, white label it, put another portal on the front of it, and call it their own offering, and we're just the engine under the covers. Their customer onboarding process would be creating tenants. The tenancy here would be this beverage company and that beverage company can't even see each other. So that's the tenancy has been around for quite a while. Licensing, I mentioned smart licensing is common. So here's where you actually turn on the smart licensing, tie it to your account. That's more normally a kind of a one-time admin function. You actually see, for example, the platform license. I'm using, a Suite production platform. I have these cloud personalities licensed. I don't actually have them licensed, so it actually says I'm in eval mode. So for example, a customer who's actually demoing it would get like a 90-day eval key, and we actually see what features they're using. Those map into that feature matrix so they know what they need to buy. Okay. Some basic configuration, proxy. If you're disconnected from the internet, an offline repository where you can actually pull like our upgrades. Like if you're some military organization in your top secret network, it's not connected to the internet. You may have to download the updates, put them in a repo. This is where you configure like the offline repo. So this is what I mean by it's a suite with kind of a common framework. Okay.
Can I get back to your point before about the IAM part? So how do you do that? Do you have any kind of integration with an LDAP or Active Directory?
It's all via single sign-on IDPs. So in LDAP, we use an IDP provider or any kind of single sign-on product.
So does it mean
all via IDP.
Okay, so does it mean that if I'm from the virtualization world, so in the case of VMware, for example, you have kind of platform services controller where you configure the single sign-on, and then you authenticate everything against the single sign-on. Does it means that I need a similar module for Cisco for this Cloud Connect feature, or?
Well, the module on our side is built in. It's a SAML 2.0 connection.
Okay.
So on the other side, whatever your single sign-on technology is, it's an IDP listener, and right there you're configuring your querier against a listener. And so everything is actually flowing through and we're getting tokens. Rather than doing local like password credential matching, we're passing everything through a SAML connection to the provider.
So it means that in an enterprise context, we can use our regular access management model and apply that to this product without having to...
Your users, your groups, et cetera, come through the single sign-on. Now, mapping those groups into roles, that's what's in the product that's unique. Like any other product, they have very specific roles, separation of duties. You're an admin, you're a modeler, you're a consumer. But the actual group mappings and your credentials to say you are actually who you are, that all comes through the single sign-on. Okay. Let's talk about Cost Optimizer here. Got about 20 more minutes. So we'll spend about 10 minutes on here. All right, so this is actually showing me all my cloud spend. So just nice, simple dashboard. It's loading off the event Wi-Fi, so it's taking a little bit here. But I've loaded in quite a bit. So this is a lot of my teams and some of our engineering team. This is what we spend in the cloud, just doing our stuff in some of our demo accounts. So
how do you get to these numbers? Do you query the APIs on each of the cloud providers and you get actual data, or is this some kind of guessing that you do?
It's not guessing, yeah. Let me show a little dashboard here, and I'll actually go into what it looks like for the cloud accounts, because billing nuances are unique per cloud, so you have to actually set up each cloud to query the data. So I can look at things like show me the last 6 months, and this data refreshes, so in 6 months I've spent a lot more on Google than I would have thought, $108,000. I can query by department, I can go by cloud type, I can come over here and look like my cost over time, so look at months.
And sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
More importantly, okay, this is great, I can see what I'm spending, but are you able to show a kind of prediction of what it would have cost me if I was running that on a different cloud provider, for example?
You're describing what-if scenarios, which is actually what more Optimization Manager does, running those heuristical what-if scenarios. We tend to look at costs like that more on a workload-by-workload basis, because it's more a governance and the self-service aspect. You're doing that whole big strategic what-if, that's CWAM that actually does that. I want to pick this up and actually move it to another region. Would it cost me more or less? Would my performance been able to be possible? Those are strategic what-if scenarios, and that's exactly what CWAM does.
How do you get billing values for VMware and other on-premises clouds?
Yeah, you have to come in. VMware is not really cloud, so somewhat in the setup, you are mapping in your organization's T-shirt sizes and assigning a cost value. We do the same thing in Workload Manager, for example. Our founders from Clicker were 2 guys from VMware that were architects for vSphere. Everyone uses VMware, so we kind of pseudo turn VMware into a cloud by adding a few constructs that don't, image mapping, instance types, T-shirt sizes with a price, those things we actually project onto VMware and then merge their capability
I think
onto
that's,
it.
Ivan has a really important point. Many organizations have no idea what their infrastructure is running. They just keep paying and paying. Is there a service that you provide, or is there a methodology that you provide to kind of reach to some kind of, let's say,
Chargeback?
or some realistic estimation of what the on-premises infrastructure is costing on a monthly basis?
So I came from the consulting world. That's one of the things we used to do. So that multi-cloud advisory role, one of the things we oftentimes do is help customers just look at what'd you buy? You bought a FlexPod, a vBlock, a VersaStack, FlashStack, whatever our converged infrastructure is, HyperFlex. You paid $1 million for it. You expect a 5-year life cycle. You have 5 guys who run it. Pretty quickly, we can usually come up with kind of a 80% accurate. There's a lot of companies that actually spend a lot of time thinking about that, and I think sometimes they get into analysis paralysis. Pretty quickly, we can usually get you an 80% one that's at least directionally correct. Someone said chargeback. I actually find a lot of enterprises don't actually charge back. I've heard organizations call it showback, and I have one customer calls it shameback. I like that. I've started using it because when one dev team is spending 50 grand and the other one's only spending 5, and they, hey, you don't actually even ship a product yet, and you're spending tons. So we actually see a lot of times you don't need to be perfect in private cloud. Just getting visibility to make business-aligned decisions would be a win. So the advisory function or our partners or our consulting group oftentimes will very quickly come up with, it's not too hard to figure out roughly what small, medium, large, extra large should
again,
roughly cost.
What you said was that you're able to do that kind of strategically. So to me, it implies a kind of a higher level view, right?
Yeah.
Are you able to kind of drill down, or are you planning to do some kind of drill down based on, I don't know, specific use cases? For example, let's say you use AWS, you can see, for example, the price you're paying for a medium size or a large size AWS instance. Can you compare that with the price you will pay for the equivalent in Azure or Google Cloud?
Yeah, so 2 things. So CWAM looks at that actually more holistically and can do that price comparison. We have reporting that also will show it pretty quickly. We also do it at a deployment time in Workload Manager. When you go to deploy and I actually see 3 clouds available to you, at the top right corner, we're showing you your monthly cost is X. When you click the other one, your monthly cost of this would be Y. When you click the 3rd cloud, your monthly cost. So on a per request basis, we're showing it actually right there in the runtime.
And I'm going to end with a totally unrealistic expectation. Are you able to somehow send alerts when, for example, there is a pricing change at one of the cloud providers, and you can say, hey, look, Amazon is increasing the prices for this kind of instance. You should try to move that on Google or on Azure.
Yeah, that's our recommendations engine. We'll actually do that. Now, alerting and doing something kind of policy-based, there is some policy in CWAM, and Action Orchestrator might be looking for certain events. Hey, tell me when this actually drops by 20% and actually do something. Like Action Orchestrator could look for those drops and automatically make the change happen. Don't wait for a user to click the recommendation button, make it happen automatically. And that might be actually very appropriate for dev environments. Always find the cheapest place for dev, but maybe you're a little more concerned about prod. Don't go just in the background automatically changing prod. There's actually a governance and change management for that.
Just a quick question, sorry to ask again.
Okay.
For the on-prem environment,
Yep.
if I want to determine the cost, what kind of parameters you need in over 24 hours, or how is the model that you are calculating the cost with working for on-prem?
A lot of the billing in the public cloud is nightly, so most of this is actually doing a batch process that runs, because, for example, most of the public cloud providers drop billing data into like a bucket. Most of them you create a bucket. There are some things that are via API as well, so we're doing both. VMware, there's no concept of dropping a nightly billing file into a bucket, so we're actually querying the APIs and doing everything every hour.
Yeah, for Google, Amazon, and so on, I get it. It's no problem.
VMware, it's pretty
how
routinely,
do we
it's hourly.
do it? I want also to monitor, for example, on-prem environments, private cloud things. What kind of parameters can I drop into here, yeah?
Yeah, basically the t-shirt sizes, or services. You can assign prices to instances, services, and we're using that stuff to calculate cost. Because you don't pay network ins and outs. What you usually do is things like network ins and outs and such, you basically add them onto your calculated t-shirt size cost. Whereas on the public clouds, they're monetizing every little increment of consumption. So private cloud is a little more focused around the instance size costs, and you're burdening those costs with some of the things that are hidden, that in the public cloud you actually see as individual things in the bill.
For most enterprises, pretty hard to calculate what my private cloud is costing. I have vectors like I have to pay the rent maybe in the co-location, I have to pay the electricity, cooling, then comes the hardware, the software licenses.
Agreed.
It's quite complex to get to a, like you say, t-shirt sized number and say, okay, that's my number, yeah? So
yeah, it is. And I think it's gotten better. There's a lot of the analyst firms actually have recommendations and sample Excel spreadsheets. Load in some of this data, how many guys you have, what their burdened salary is, and we basically tell you, your price for delivering the service is X. So our consulting guys actually do that pretty quickly. But you're right, it's not an exact science, and the CFO may look at it differently than the CIO, because the CFO may go, oh yeah, your rent, my depreciated asset cost of the building, your chairs you sit in. I mean, the CFO probably has a better view, but most customers just get close, at least get some reporting. I think the ultimate thing about trying to show cost at a self-service time is a lot of times I think users will usually make the right decision. If you give them the data, hey, I'm a dev guy, this is just an experiment, I probably shouldn't be spending $1,000 a month on this, maybe the $250 a month one's good enough. That's also where the governance kicks in as well. Hey, if you spend over $1,000, maybe the organizational rule is send an email to the manager and make the manager approve it as well. So that's a combination of the governance plus like Action Orchestrator triggering business rules to go in. And then we also do things like you approved it, he deployed it, you're the finance guy, you actually want to see the charge go into the financial system for a quarterly bill back. So Action Orchestrator could actually insert the charge into the financial system. So you're right, on-premise is a little more complicated. Amazon and those guys spend a lot of time figuring out their business model, what it costs, and constantly tuning it. You don't have a function like that in an organization. So sometimes it's a little bit this. Yeah. And getting close actually is probably more data than you have ever before. So that's usually my advice is start with something, don't overanalyze it, and then tune it from there.
Having whatever is more than you had before.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. So real quick, if I drill into details here, I actually see my compute and where it is. I see my storage and how much I'm spending. I see my other. Other can be things like taxes or new services maybe we haven't categorized yet. The network, I mentioned network ins and outs. Here, $9,700. I told you 10%. My bill, it's about 10% of my bill is network ins and outs of just data we're pumping in and out. And services, things like Amazon RDS, that would be cloud platform services. Okay. We don't have enough time to go into all of this, but obviously we have a full inventory. It's not what we're managing. I see everything through the API, so I can quickly go filter in. Like I added my personal Google account that was related to that Google stuff we were doing a year ago I talked about. I actually added my account in here, so I can come in here and go to billing unit. I added my account in yesterday. It's right here. And this is all the inventory that's actually showing in my Google account. So I've been cleaning it out. I only have a few things running. Okay. So let me show you real quick. We talked about admin stuff. So coming in here for clouds, someone was asking about billing. These are all the different cloud accounts I have configured. In our group, we have quite a few. This GCP Technical Marketing Engineering is the one that I added that was mine. If I want to click, go to AWS and I learned about a new cloud account, I can click add, and this is the stuff from the account. So if you have a corporate credit card that people are billing, you may say, hey, you have to register your accounts now. So there would be a process to collect this information, load it in, and now you're seeing Cisco internally. We have our own internal visibility tool. My accounts are all in our corporate account, so I automatically see it all from the corporate account. But if you had people out swiping credit cards, you'd have to collect this information, and now you're seeing everything. So this is where you're setting up the Amazon-specific stuff. If I come over to Azure, do the same thing, add a cloud account, same kind of data, it's just different semantics and nuances. This is the cloud-specific page that we then normalize into the querying and reporting. So VMware, remember we mentioned add a cloud account. This is vCenter data, okay? So that ultimately turns into things like cost groups. Like I've got my Google account, for example, didn't get put into a billing group. If we did a geo kind of layout here, but a more probably likely one would be this is like a parent company, these are sub companies, or this is a dev team in the sub company. So, my billing account here in Google, maybe I want to drag myself into the US business unit. So there you go. Now when I run reporting and stuff, my billing groups are showing up. So this is just part of loading the accounts and getting the structure. You pretty much have unlimited billing group and billing assignment capabilities. That's, I think, competitively, some products can do this, but they can't do a lot with the billing groups and subgroups and stuff. Okay. We could probably spend an hour on this, but I'm going to kind of cut it and move on to the next one.
Always in dollar, or I can switch to euro? Or?
This can do multi-currency. It's evolving. I actually haven't seen all the product docs yet, so I'm not actually sure what currency we're looking at. But that is actually something that's changing. Clouds are actually doing stuff in currencies on the back end, starting to. A lot of the clouds today still, you see front ends and currency and charging, but actually the back end's all in US dollars. That is starting to change. We're also seeing hours become minutes. Minutes are going to become seconds. More and more things are moving to like numbers of API calls. So this is keeping up with those evolutions. I'm not sure what currencies are supported.
Would like to know what this is in shekels, but okay.
Okay. Yeah, I have to, when we get to the release product in 2 weeks, I'll be able to answer that question for you. So let me move to Action Orchestrator and kind of talk about that just for a minute. So we'll pop open that module. I'm just popping open other tabs because it's easier. So these are actually workflows. Let me talk a bit about what this means. We could do a lot in CloudCenter before. We could script almost anything, but the truth was, like my example of 1,200 lines of code. You could make it do anything, but sometimes scripting lacks context, doesn't have global variables, can't pass things back and forth very well. It's like not like an object you can pass, or how do you interact with like a Kafka queue? Maybe my incoming execution wasn't a user clicking, I want this. It's a Kafka message coming in on a topic, and that triggers a workflow. Or maybe when you finish the workflow, you want to pop something out onto Kafka or AMQP. So all these adapters I was talking about in the different tiers, this is what's in the product. So a lot of the setup in here is the targets you want to interact with. The targets could be different modules. The targets could be API endpoints or other, a mainframe. I want to go talk to a CICS interface or whatever. The account keys that are being used, setting up global account keys, setting up all my variables, setting up schedules and times and reacting to events. So there's a lot in this product because we have customers that use this for all kinds of stuff. We have a lot of things that actually has nothing to do with technical. I said business process orchestration. For example, I'll tell you how we use this product internally in Cisco. We use the previous version, but everyone in Cisco buys their laptop refresh, the software I need. I get my Office 365 account. All that stuff comes through a portal for us internally. And so it's actually Cisco Process Orchestrator today within Cisco that actually does all that work. Go to my manager, put it in the systems, actually deliver the software, check it in with licensing managers, ultimately then put the cost, quarterly cost into the financial system. All that stuff is actually done, so this is the evolution product for that. So I think that group has actually been a beta tester for this product for a while, because this is what they'll evolve to. So it's not just technical workflows.
Then you can say which group had the most expensive laptops, yeah?
Oh, I'm sure they already know that. It goes in the financial system. I don't know that, but someone can tell that. So little things, even day zero setup of clouds. There's interesting, a couple names disappeared that were here this morning. Release candidate. Here's one though, create account. Maybe the process of actually even creating an AWS account. In Workload Manager, we consume cloud accounts. We talk to APIs, but maybe you have a very often recurring day zero kind of setup. I need to create VPCs, subnets, accounts, etc. So if I actually come in and look at this, I can see where was it run? So view runs. This one actually hasn't run. I think it's this one that's lost its name. Hang on 1 second, I'll find one that's been run here. Actually, I think it was this one. All right, so this one's been run multiple times. Create VPCs. So if I actually drill into this, I can see a lot of detail, what happened, how long it took. But a topology designer, just like we often show dragging and dropping the Lego blocks of Workload Manager, load balancer, web server, database server. This has a very similar topology. So I have lots of things that I can do in here. I can edit this workflow. I have the rights. But you basically see a very conditional step-by-step traditional workflow. CloudCenter Workload Manager actually did a very dynamic rendering of what we called lifecycle actions. Pre-VM init, post-VM init, pre-VM startup, post-VM startup. We rendered a lot of that dynamically. This is more procedural. If this, then do that. Conditional, if it succeeds, great. If it doesn't, back things out. I can edit this. I'll just kind of show you kind of what's available. So when I come in and say I want to add things, actually this one's not going to let me edit. I don't own this one. I'll choose another one that will edit real quick. So I'll do a new workflow, it'll be a little easier. So over here I have items I can drag. So I mentioned, for example, a Kafka queue. So we have all these kind of groups, core activities, calculate date. I mean, these are technical, like I need to figure out the date time difference, run every 15 minutes. A good example of like a date time difference and then executing something. Your user account should never be a member of two groups because Sarbanes-Oxley says you can't have those two roles. They have to be separation of duties. I could have a process that goes through my entire Active Directory and make sure every 15 minutes no one's accidentally put those two groups on your account. You should have group A and he should have group B for separation of duties. So that's an example of a non-technical workflow that's executing all the time based on some time delta calculation or a schedule. Okay, so all this stuff is just parsing strings, setting variables, setting context, global kind of stuff. Let's take, for example, Kafka. So I could actually have at the bottom, I need to send a Kafka message. And so over here, how often do you want to time out? How do you want to use it? What account keys? I could use the default account keys, or I could actually override. So I can come in here and choose mine, or I can add new. I can use Kafka certificates, for example, and I can import my certificates. So all these different kind of steps and setup, all these things are what give you kind of the outcome you want. I could go off and I could actually create a Meraki network. I could go into Google Cloud, and we have lots of things like create a project, create an instance, create a VPC network. Oh wait, I really need to actually have a VPC network before an instance. So I can drag that up and change the order. I want to, anything we don't already have, just generic GCP API request, just a way to just send an API request to GCP. So if I don't have it specifically, you can send anything to GCP. And when you get over here, forming the body, what's the URL, what's the API method? Do you want to send it in JSON? This one doesn't have it. Sometimes we have multiple options like JSON, XML, HTML, text. This one doesn't support anything but JSON, so that's all you have there. So all this stuff, when I'm done, send an email. So the very finish, the requester maybe gets a, hey, we finished your job. Congratulations, here's your IP address or whatever variables you might want to pass. So this is really what happens with Action Orchestrator. There was a DevNet session today. If you really want to know, there's actually over in the developer area, one of the developer lead guys actually did a DevNet session. So just look up DevNet Action Orchestrator, and you can actually get into a lot of detail. So Workload Manager, I'll hit just because we only have a couple minutes left. No one's giving me the... Oh, there you go. All right, yeah, I'm right. Time's almost up. So here's a deployment I did already from the catalog, which is a multi-tier application. I'm going to just show you just if no one's seen it. I can come in and see the catalog. I have this multi-tier open cart package. So if I view it, what it looks like, I have the different services that are drug out onto a topology. I have what I want to do. I mentioned lifecycle actions, service initialization. These things can be scripts. This can also call Action Orchestrator. That's what's kind of new. So this is our existing functionality. Any existing customer, this looks very familiar to them. This is now just a Kubernetes microservice containerized application, but the functionality is all still the same. If I go back into the application profile and click deploy, you were asking about controlling costs and such, so I'll show you an example of that. So I have tech field day, 001B, I already deployed A. Which version do I want? Which governance kind of tag? I'm using demos. I have multiple clouds here that fit into that policy. That could also say dev stage, prod, what have you. I have aging policies. I don't want my bill to run up, so we're actually controlling it. So suspension, remember my dev use case? Why do we need to pay for these workloads tonight? The show floor is closed, so we're actually suspending the jobs at night and resuming them in the morning. I can choose things like time zones. I can come in here and say, this one I actually want to have 3 web server nodes, okay? So when I click next and start choosing clouds, in this top corner, see this save up to 54%? This is where we're actually clicking on clouds and choosing things, and it didn't completely load. There you go, still loading. So if I choose different instance types here, Wi-Fi is kind of slow. So I mentioned filtering instances. Maybe my HA proxy, I want an M3 medium. So up in the top right, I'm actually kind of going up in cost. I come down here to Apache. Remember I said 3 of them, I want those to be T2 smalls. Or if I keep scrolling off, more and more and more expensive, D2 4X large. Notice now I'm spending $8,300 or $8.35 an hour for a total of over $6,000 a month. So as I'm choosing options real time, I'm getting response in the corner of what's it going to cost. So the question of VMware private cloud, you're at least giving a t-shirt size, you're seeing this is roughly costing X, and you can in your head decide is that worth it or not. So when I finally go ahead and choose this, I'm going to scale this down because it's telling me I can save $3,200 a month if I choose to. All this stuff is just choosing what clouds, what networks, growing disks. If you want to see all this, we have lots of past stuff. So I click deploy. Okay. So over here I've got one already deployed. So we'll now jump over to the one that's already deployed. Same thing, I think I chose two nodes. So this one's actually already up and running. So this is where I'm actually accumulating real cost of runtime, real time against this. I'm showing you what's going on. This is where you're really doing all the management. I'm seeing the instance IDs, the IP addresses allocated to it. I can SSH or RDP or VNC into it. I can add volumes, reboot it, resize the instance, synchronize the VM info via APIs. This is where we also can do like manual scaling. I can come in here and say add a node, remove a node. I can click on details. So this is all the traditional workload management. We're just really kind of leveraging one, more cost data from Cost Optimizer, and two, some of those lifecycle actions and day 2 functions are actually calling action orchestrator workflows.